Hello, everybody. Oh my goodness. I am so excited to be here with you all. I mean, I can't even imagine how excited, y'all can't even imagine how excited I am to be on here with you guys today. If you don't know, this is literally the first AMA that I have done since 2017, y'all. 2017. I mean, literally. And so back in 2017, 2016, all the other years, I used to do Ask Me Anything all the time because people had questions upon questions upon questions for me about relationships, about mental health, about entrepreneurship, about so many things, to be honest with you. And I had time back then. But today, I am here to talk to you guys about whatever it is that you guys want to talk about. And so I decided to come on here and to answer any questions that you may have live and in color. Like you're getting all of me. Ding, ding, ding. Live and in color. There are so many people who have slid in my DMs. There's so many people who emails me. So many people have literally called my office, put comments and questions on my videos and things of that nature. And so here I am. I wanted to spend some quality time with y'all because I don't think I've ever gone live on YouTube, like ever. And so I mean, this is a opportunity for me to do something that I haven't done in a very long time. And I'm excited to be here with y'all. Like I really am excited. So whoever shows up, shows up. If they miss it, they miss it. There are a number of people who sent me their questions via email, which I have them here. So I will for sure go through those questions and make sure that I get those answered because it's going to be live and it's going to be juicy. Y'all already know me. I give y'all the real deal, holy feel. And it's going to be a good time. And so let me quickly introduce myself because there may be somebody who is on here who's watching or who is watching the replay who don't know who I am, right? And I want to make sure that you know who I am and that I am the real deal. My name is Kiaundra Jackson. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am an award-winning speaker. I am a best-selling author. I am a media personality, a television personality. I've been featured in Forbes. I don't know if you can see that back there, but I got my receipts in the background, okay? I was featured as Forbes' Next 100. I have been on countless television shows on OWN, Oprah's Magazine, recently featured in Inc. Magazine, CBS, Fox, Women's Health Magazine, Cosmopolitan, you name it, your girl has been on there. One of the things that I am most proud of and most excited about is that Beyonce and the NAACP recognize my work and me for all the things that I do in the community. So, I'm not just your average girl. You know what I mean? I got receipts. People who are on very high levels have recognized my work as far as accountability goes. So I'm just not some, raggedy person out here. I really do have the opportunity to work with a lot of great people and to share my knowledge and expertise on a wider level with you guys. So if you're here, because I see people are in the chat, if you are here, say hi. Hi, Jenny. If you are here, say hi. Welcome. I'm so excited that you are here. Today, we're going to take time and you can ask me questions about anything, y'all. Let me tell y'all, come in close. Let me tell y'all. So getting your questions answered live and in color for free from me, at least, is a big deal, right? Because your girl sends invoices. Hello. And she does not answer people's questions for free these days. Like, this is a huge deal, right? And so to be able to speak with someone such as myself for free to get your questions answered, I think you guys should take very good take this opportunity and like get all of your questions answered. So there is nothing that I will not tell you guys. There isn't anything that is off limits. I mean, I have a wide range of knowledge and expertise about so many things, right? So literally we can talk about love, we can talk about relationships, whether that is family, friends, coworkers. If you have questions around mental health, around therapy, hey Melanie, mental health, around therapy. I also am a public speaker coach. So if you are a speaker and you want to know more information about that, questions about that, business and entrepreneurship, clearly your girl is doing really well. If Beyonce and the NAACP has recognized her work. So if you have any questions about business, entrepreneurship, if you're a therapist, that's another lane that we can talk about. I mean, it's literally endless. People also want to know about like my personal life sometimes and like some of the challenges that I, encounter behind the scenes that nobody else really knows. And so that's also fair game as well. So there's options out here, right? So if you have any questions, I would highly suggest you guys start putting them in the chat box because I will stay on here literally as long as I need to get your questions answered. Melanie knows if you've ever had like a coaching call with me, like we stay on until y'all get y'all questions answered and we are good to go. So start putting your questions in the chat. But if I don't see any, I can go off of the list that I currently have here that people have sent me already, and we can start there. And then if questions come along, or if you guys have questions or, something pops up in your spirit, that you want to ask me, feel free to hop in and put those inside of the chat box. So these are in absolutely positively no particular order, but I'm just going to go through them as they are, as they came to me, and then we can take it from there. The first question is, how do you stay motivated even when you want to quit? Woo! That's juicy. We starting off with the juicy comments, okay? So, our questions. So, people don't know this about me, but there has been probably like the last 2 years of my life have been crazy. And when I say crazy, I genuinely mean like a lot of curveballs. I'm sure this has happened to a lot of people as well, so I'm no different. But life has been lifing, right? I mean, if you don't know the full story, but my house flooded, housing issues, shifts in my business, so much death, so much loss. I mean, car accidents, medical issues with family, like you name it. I promise you curveballs have came my way. And I'll be honest with you, there have been times on this journey, baby, when I was like, excuse my French, but I was like, F this. I was like, F this, F all of this. I don't want to do none of it, God. Take it away. This is crazy. This is ghetto. Life is ghetto here. And I don't know if I can keep doing this anymore, right? And the hardest part for me was because everything was happening back to back, right? So for me, if things are a little bit more spread out, if something happens and I get a little bit of time in between and then, something else happens, I can manage that. But I mean, back to back, every week, something has been happening, I swear, for like the last 2 years of my life, And so I have wanted to quit so many times. And I'm not even gonna lie. I'm like, literally, I'm on like a borderline hiatus from like social media in regards to like creating content. Literally, my birthday was a few weeks ago and God told me to like literally go on vacation. So I took 10 days off. Like there's been so much happening that I really wanted to quit. And so what keeps me motivated though is my why. And I know this sounds mad cliche and super like what, but like the things that God put on the inside of me, the things that I want for my family, the things that I want to shift generationally and break generational patterns and curses and cycles and things in my family around relationships and finances and poverty and all of the experiences in life. Like I know that I am the change factor for my family. God has already been crystal clear with me about you're that one in your bloodline that's going to shift things, right? And that is what keeps me motivated, because in the moment things feel out of control and chaotic and I want to quit at times, right? But understanding the long-term goal and that if I quit, if I stop, if I give up, right, there's all of these people that are attached to me and my family, friends, and, colleagues and closest people that's not going to get what they're supposed to get, right? And at the end of the day, when I'm standing before the Lord and he says, did you do X, Y, and Z? And why did, I want him to be like, job well done, Kiaundra. You know what I mean? And so that is really what keeps me motivated. What keeps me motivated is seeing change in my family, seeing change in my own life, seeing and providing experiences that they've never been able to go through, shifting generational patterns and things of that nature. That is really what keeps me motivated. But there's been 1,000,001 times where I wanted to quit. Not gonna lie. One recently this month, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore, right? And so I stay motivated by just remembering those things. The next question is, and this is probably more in the therapy realm for people who are therapists, but it says, how are you paid your worth as an AMFT? So if you don't know what an AMFT is, it is an associate marriage and family therapist. It's essentially an intern. You're still an intern when you're a therapist. If you're not licensed, you're an intern, but they call it like an associate. So the A stands for associate in AMFT. Now, I'm not 100% sure what this person really means with this question. When they say paid your worth, I'm not sure if they're saying like at a regular job, paid your worth, or like outside of a regular 9 to 5, right? Because remember, my journey and my path has been much different than the average therapist, and will continue to be much different than the average therapist, right? And so I went through, of course, the same process that everyone else had to go through in order to get here, but my path was a little bit different. So as an intern or an associate, I worked the regular schmegular jobs as well, right? Like after I graduated from school, I literally worked at a methadone clinic. If you don't know what a methadone clinic is, it's basically the drug that they give people who are addicted to heroin to help them navigate through the transition. So I worked there. And then I also worked in a community-based setting where I work with children at schools. So both of those jobs, the second job was an increase from the first job. The first job I was paid like low, like pennies, okay? But then when I went to the community base with the children, they definitely paid me a little bit more. But I was in the field. I was literally driving my car, seeing clients, like doing all of the things. I don't know if any job will ever pay people their worth. Let's just keep it 100. I don't care how many degrees you got, how well you are, how great you are, how good of an employee you are. Like there's no job that is going to be able to pay me enough where it's sufficient that I have changed the lives and, the families of the people that I've worked with. There's no amount of money that they can pay me to compare to that. But I think I got paid sufficiently for where I was at in my journey, to be honest with you. And you have to advocate for yourself. If I had to tell this person anything, it's to advocate for yourself. Get those raises, boo. Take those extra classes. Take those extra, we call them CEs, continuing education units to like up your skill set. Do all of the things. Apply for a raise. Do all of our new position. Apply. Do what you need to do in order to get paid. For a long time, though, like there was a part of me where I just knew that this wasn't it, right? And then that's when God made me transition into full-time private practice, right? I literally quit my job. If you don't know the story, 2017, I literally quit my job, cold turkey. God said, quit your job. I didn't do it immediately. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, wait, what, God? Say what? So I don't have no savings. So what are you talking about? Quit my job? Like, I need this health insurance. What are you talking about? So that kind of happened. But once I transitioned out of there, God knew who I was going to be and who I was becoming way before I was ever able to be a licensed therapist. So once I left my full-time job, of course, I was like speaking and being on podcasts and being featured in articles. And I have written my first book and, like all of those things have already happened for me. And that's where I started to feel like my worth was starting to pay off, to be honest with you. So my path, because I have to say this before I move on, please do not idolize my path. There's a lot of therapists or up and coming therapists who I really appreciate this perspective from. I know you guys look at me and you're like, oh my gosh, she's gold. People be emailing me like, you're the GOAT, Kiaundra. I understand that perspective because in our field, there isn't a lot of people who go down the route that I have gone down, right? We have some people who are in the media, does television, all of those things, but that's not the norm. You don't learn that in graduate school, okay? So don't covet what I have. Don't, because y'all don't know the behind the scenes of what it took for me to get here, honey. Because if God allowed y'all to experience that part, in addition to all of the other stuff in the forefront, y'all will be like, I don't want this. I don't want this. Kiaundra can have this journey. But I understand why people want what I have because it looks beautiful on the outside. But you don't know what people like me go through on a daily basis. So don't covet anybody else's journey. Don't try to do what, other people are doing. And don't imitate and copy people. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's okay to be inspired, but don't imitate and copy people. Like, that's not cool. So anyways, I started getting paid my worth after I left my full-time job. And it really was after I got licensed where things started moving really quickly for me. Jenny had a question. Jenny said, what activities are best to overcome the holiday and winter blues? I love this question so much because we are coming up on fall and winter. And if you don't know, it is a very interesting time for a lot of people, right? Sometimes people love the holiday season because they're with more family and friends, right? Which is great. You got a little bit of downtime. It might be Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever you believe in, Thanksgiving, New Year. Like, it's just a beautiful time for a lot of people. But on the flip side, the same exact people can be a little bit more difficult, right? Because some people who are around family, right? Some of those relationships are not the healthiest, or they can be toxic, or they can be complicated. And to be around those people around a certain period of time can be a little bit more stressful for some. And so I don't want to think that everybody just has the great holiday season, but there are some people who struggle. And not to mention that there are emotional and triggering things that can happen around the holiday season as well. If you experience any childhood trauma, if a death or a loss happened around the holiday season, all of those things bubble up for a lot of people, and it can be very difficult to manage. And so even with that, sometimes people think like we call it like the holiday blues, and we use the term blues like it's not that big of a deal, but sometimes it is like a clinical depression. It is like extreme where people cannot, seasonal affective disorder, like they cannot manage and navigate through certain seasons, especially the winter. And so it might be as slight as, oh, well, I don't want to be around people right now, or I just don't feel like it. I feel a little bit of sadness. Or it can be like full-blown depression. I ain't getting out of bed. Don't talk to me. Don't call me. I ain't showered in 2 months. Like it's a thing, right? And so if I had to give you some activities to do, it would depend on where you're at on that journey. If family brings you joy and happiness and contentment, schedule some really fun family activities with your children, with your extended family, to hang out, to cook some meals, because Black people, we like to eat, okay, for all the occasions. Do that, right? But if family is the source of strife and drama and trauma for you, I would not suggest doing that. So for me, the activities is not necessarily based on seasonal things, but it's just based on the things that bring you joy. Think about the things that bring you happiness and joy throughout the other seasons of the year. If that's getting your nails and your feet done, baby, do that. If that's reading a book, for me, it's going to the beach. Like, all of whatever that is for you in other seasons of your life, not during the holiday season, incorporate those same things into your weekly or even daily schedule. That is something that I would highly, highly recommend. And if you don't know what activities bring you joy and calmness and peace, you should figure that out real quick, because the way life is right now, baby, you're going to need to find something and something that keeps you grounded. You need to have that go-to person that's part of your support team, or you need to have those things. And just before I move on, like, I like to engage in activities that enhance our senses, right? So touch, smell, sight, all of those things are important, right? It might literally be you spraying a lavender mist in your room. That calms you down. It might be a beautiful picture of the ocean or going to see the beach that, calms you down. It might be a piece of silk or something that you can touch that feels really smooth. All of these things are ways for you to basically cope when things get a little crazy. Melanie says, how do you structure your time to be most productive? Seemingly, there's not enough time in the day to do all the things, sessions, content, production development, and all that. You are so right. Woo! So full disclosure, I am a single woman right now, right? So I am not married, not partnered, and I do not have children. Those two things alone frees up a little bit more of my time than the average person. Like if I'm keeping it real and keeping it honest with you. Because I know, and I have friends and family and all of these people, like their day is consumed with their children or their day is consumed with their partner. And by the end of the day, you don't have time for yourself or to get any other tasks done. So for me, that is something that separates me. And I think God did that on purpose because he was like, I need for you to build some things up right now for me. Or for yourself. So when, your boo does come and when that does come in your life, you'll already be established. For me, structuring my day always starts with God first. I have literally found out that if I do not get in my word, if I do not pray, if I do not get my worship in, my quiet time, my alone time as like first thing in the morning, like before I check Instagram, before I check email, before I do anything, my whole entire day is thrown off for some reason. It's just always been that way. God is like, give me the first of your day and then I'll bless the rest. I'm not going to preach because this is not the day for that. But I firmly believe that when you prioritize God first, he blesses the rest of whatever it is that you're doing. So that's the first thing that I do. The second thing is I create a to-do list. Every single day on my phone, on my calendar is a list of all of the things that I was meant to do today. And I make it realistic, right? So like, for instance, this week, I got a whole bunch of like speaker coaching calls, like so many every day. I know that I'm not going to be able to do some of the other tasks because I'm literally going to be on a call every single hour, right? So being realistic and being like, okay, I'm not going to put as many things on my schedule this week because I know I'm not going to accomplish it. I'm going to go ahead and start next week, put all those things on there because I'll have more flexibility with my schedule. And so sometimes I think we overload ourselves and we put too many things on our to-do list for the week or for the day. And then at the end of the day, when we don't do them, we beat ourselves up. And we're like, dang, I didn't do 10 of these tasks. And then we feel bad. And then it got to roll over to the next day. And then you're unmotivated. And then, like it's just like a snowball effect, And so I don't even play myself like that. There are times though where things will roll over for a few days and even some weeks. Like I'm gonna do that next month because I don't even feel like it. But for the most part, things that I can do. Also delegate tasks. If you are a business owner, Melanie, which I know that you are, and I know coins play a huge part of, some of the things, but if you can delegate, if you can hire a virtual assistant, even if it's for an hour or 2 hours a week, that will free up so much time. If you can hire a video editor who's going to edit down your podcast and your videos that you record, that's going to free up your time. If you're going to, you know what I'm saying? Like if you can hire another assistant who's going to manage clients and the schedule with that, it will help you so much. And I was a stickler about doing everything for myself and by myself for so long. And that was horrible. That was the worst thing that I could have done. And now that I have help and a team and a squad of people who are around me, I'd be like, girl, you can do that because I don't feel like it, or I don't have the time, or blah, 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 and it gets done. So definitely invest. Even if it's a financial stretch for you, that will be the best investment that you will ever, ever, ever experience. I promise you that. Like I said, even if you start with 1 to 2 hours, find somebody on Fiverr or Upwork or, something like that, baby, it's going to be a game changer for sure. All right. If y'all got more questions, you can put them in the chat box, but I'm going to get back to my list that I have over here that other people have sent me to because I want to make sure I'm getting those answered. The next question is, we get into relationships. Hold on. It's getting spicy. Okay. It says, how do I know when to walk away from a relationship? Baby, let me take a sip of my water first. Listen, There's so many ways that you should know when to walk away from a relationship, but there's a lot of people who don't have that self-awareness, or they are or have experienced so much trauma and that they're used to being mistreated that it feels normal to them. And so there's a lot of people in my mind, I'm like, girl, you need to leave that fool, or child, you know that girl ain't no good for you. You need to let her go, right? And it's easy for us to be on the outside looking in and giving that type of advice. But it might not be as easy for the people that's in it, especially when you're in love. Like, let's keep it real. Like, when you in love and you just like, oh, they're the best thing ever. I never want to be without them. When you are so like in la la land, like, you don't think logically. Like, let's be real. Like, when they say love is blind, sometimes, like, you just don't think right. You are just leading with your emotions, and that will jack you up. So you know to walk away from a relationship when things that might happen as like a one-off or just a random situation starts to become a pattern. Now, it's okay for people to have an off day, a bad day. Y'all got into a little disagreement, a little argument, whatever the case may be. But if he disrespectful, or your partner, she, he, whatever, is disrespectful to you every single day and calling you names and being mean and emotionally manipulating you and all, like, oh, red flag. This isn't just a one-off situation. This is a pattern, right? And I firmly believe that when somebody shows you who they are, like, you should believe them the first time, right? So you should walk away when it gets toxic, when it gets unhealthy, when things are becoming a pattern and it's not just like a one-off situation, when you are not feeling the love and the reciprocity in the relationship. If I'm giving you all the love, I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, we being intimate, I'm giving you all the communication, I'm doing all of the things that I know how to do. But then when it comes to you reciprocating and giving me what I need in the relationship, that's gone. It doesn't exist. That's a problem for me, right? That's another way when you know to walk away from, because there is no reciprocity. And especially if somebody is literally overstepping your boundaries all the time. If you saying, you know what, babe, when we get into disagreements, I don't like the way you talk to me. I don't like your tone. You too aggressive. I need for you to bring it down. And they steadily pushing that button every single time and doing the same thing over and over again. It's unacceptable. And I'm not even talking about the extreme stuff of like physical abuse or anything like that. I'm just talking about things that can happen when two people are not on the same level and the same wavelength. So walk away when it no longer serves you. That's essentially the go-to. Walk away when it no longer serves you. You're not benefiting. You're not getting anything positive, and you're staying for very superficial reasons. Don't stay for the kids. Don't do it. Worst decision ever. I understand why people do it, but don't let that be the reason. Okay? All right, next question. Is there anyone in the chat that nope, y'all just listening. Okay, that's cool. Next question. What do I do when other people in my life don't want to go to therapy? Woo! This is my everyday life. Like, those of us that are in therapy, we're in therapy because of the people who don't want to go to therapy. Do I need to say that again? Does that make sense? Like, most of us are in therapy because we are dealing with people who don't want to go to therapy, and it's jacking up the whole situation. So I come from the school of thought, when other people in my life, whether that's family, friends, coworkers, acquaintances, colleagues, whatever, when other people in my life don't want to go to therapy, that's their business. And that sounds harsh because we want everybody to grow and evolve and do right and be right and become, self-evolve, just like we are. For the people who have been in therapy and doing the work, we want them to be better. We want them to process their trauma. We want them to work through issues. We want them, and we want that so bad for them because we know how good it can get on the other side. But you also can't make anybody do anything that they do not want to do. The only thing that you can do, and this is the thing that I live by, is to model that behavior. So instead of being annoyed that they're not going to therapy, and you just like, whatever. Go to therapy yourself. Talk about therapy. Talk about the benefits of therapy. Talk about how it's helped you. Like, model what you want other people to see. And sometimes that's like more important than shoving therapy down people's throat. I stopped doing that. I tell you once, maybe twice, like, girl, you need to go to therapy. Girl, you need to go talk to somebody. Girl, you need to, girl, I tell you a few times. But after those few times is it, like, you're responsible for your own life. You got to answer to God about what you went through, not me. Right? So, but I will talk about therapy. I'll tell people all the time, oh my God, I can't wait to literally, I said this last week. Oh my God, I can't wait to my therapy session on Wednesday. Right? Like, oh, I can't wait to talk to my therapist about this. Like, all of those things are planting seeds in someone's heart, in someone's mind about therapy being a great experience. And I almost liken it to like what we're talking about, like a seed, right? Like sometimes someone has to plant the seed or like put the seed in the ground, and then somebody got to come along and water it, and somebody got to come along and prune it, right? So sometimes things don't automatically happen when you want it to and right in the time frame that you would like, but eventually something might happen in that person's life where they're like, hey, how do I find a therapist again? And then you're like, yes, got him, So it's not our responsibility to force it on someone. They have to want to go on their own. If you're talking about a child and a minor and you're seeing red flags within them, like behavioral issues with them in school, bullying or things of that nature, they really, they have say so, they have some agency, but as a parent, as a guardian and a caretaker, you might want to go ahead and enroll them into school counseling or finding a separate therapist outside of school to be able to help them navigate that. Because sometimes if you don't nip things in the bud when children are younger, it's going to grow and evolve and get out of control. And it's going to be a bigger problem later or in their adult life. Next question. What has been the hardest thing about starting your business? My God, today. The hardest thing about starting my business, and for the new people that just came in, there's a few people trickling in. We're just answering questions. If you have any questions that you want to ask about love, about life, about relationships, about mental health, about therapy, about public speaking, about business, entrepreneurship, anything is fair game, free game tonight. Put them in the chat box. As of right now, I'm going through some questions that people have emailed me and going through those. So the question right now is, what has been the hardest thing about starting your business? I think the hardest thing about starting my business is two things. One being that there was no blueprint. So there isn't anybody else in my family that I know of that is very entrepreneurial, such as myself, and especially doing the things that I want to do. There might be some people that's long lost that I don't know. Jenny, let me know. But for the most part, I'm not seeing there being a whole bunch of like business owners and entrepreneurs in my family. And so trying to pave the way and start from scratch essentially was so hard because I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't have anything to model. I didn't have nobody saying, hey, Kiaundra, this is what you got to do. And you got to go here. You got to apply for this. And this is how you do this. And this is what the tax is going to look like. I didn't have any of that. So everything that I know is like my business partner telling me, or like people who have just, God has sent me along the way that has blessed me with this information. And a lot of it, I just had to find out on my own to keep it 100, which is also a journey, right? Because like, who should have to do that? You should have someone in your corner to be able to navigate this space with. So that would be the hardest thing. The second thing is the financial piece. So I am from Compton, CPT, whoop, 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 whoop. I'm not going to crip walk on y'all tonight. Hey, if you were on any of the Purpose Tour dates, the tour that I recently was on this year, I walked in every city for fun. But anyways, that's a side note. One thing you'll get from me is fun, okay? Like, we're not going to be boring and stuck up and just like buttoned up. Like, that's not what we're doing here. The second thing is finances, right? So I came from a broken home. Parents got divorced when I was younger. Money was funny, all of those things. And so I had to revamp, and I'm still revamping the mindset that I have around money. to be honest with you, right? I remember the first business coach that I had right after I quit my job in 2017, cold turkey. She told me that I had a poverty mindset. She was like, Kiaundra, you got a poverty mindset. When I tell y'all I wanted to turn up on her, a poverty mindset, excuse me, what? Who do you think you're talking? But essentially, she was right. I thought about money and wealth and obtaining that as like it was twisted and just all out of place. And she was like, you're never going to grow and evolve and do the things that God wants you to do if you still have this raggedy mentality around money, you know? And so I had to work with God about that, work with my therapist on that, work with my coach on that. And I'm still working with that because, again, there's levels to this, right? For me to get to 5 figures is different when you're at 6 and you're trying to get to 7 or you're trying to get to 8, right? Like the mindset has to continue to grow and evolve. And so that would be the 2 hardest things about starting my business. No one talks about the real. And I was just talking to Pauliana Reed about this. She's like a celebrity ghostwriter. She's super dope. She has like a staff of like 22. And so she was like, yeah, I have a thriving business, but nobody talks about the money on the flip side, about how much it costs to keep this thing running, how much it costs to pay 22 employees. You know what I mean? And so everybody wants to have $1 million business and I want to make this much money and do. But no one talks about the flip side of what that looks like. No one talks about when you have a 6-figure, $100,000 plus of taxes. Nobody talking about that, right? And especially in communities of color. So we need to do better about talking about money and having conversations like this because it is a complete game changer. I was literally talking to my manager the other week about, because she's a multimillionaire, about like, how do you manage your money? And I'm like, having so much money. She was like, oh, you got to be in different accounts and then you got to have this and you got to, like, no one is telling me this stuff. Like, if you don't know to ask the right questions, you are going to lose out, right? And as Black people and people of color, we have to have generational wealth. We have to leave an inheritance for our children's children. And nobody teaches us how to do that. So I'm learning for the non-melanated people, okay? Anyways, I can go on a rant all about that. Let's get to Giovanna. Giovanna, you made it. Hey, she messaged me the other day and was like, I don't know if I can make it, sis, but I actually had your questions on my list here, but I'll answer your question now since you have it in the chat box, and then I can continue my questions after that. So Giovanna, I hope I'm saying your name right. Please forgive me if I'm not. She had a question about speaking. And so her question is it common for conferences to charge speakers to participate? Now, listen, there's multiple ways for you to make coin or for people to make coin, especially as a speaker for these conferences. And the type of conference that you're referring to is what we call a pay-to-play model. A pay-to-play model. So essentially what this model is, it is saying as a speaker, oh, you want to come and speak on my stage to all of my people? Then you need to pay me a fee to be able to speak to the people that's going to be in the audience. So essentially, just for example, if I wanted to speak on, say for Oprah was having a conference, okay? And Oprah, this ain't real, but if Oprah was having a conference and Oprah was like, look, it's going to be 1 million people in the room. And if you want to speak on my stage, I'm charging each speaker who wants to speak $1,000, right? This is essentially the pay-to-play model. Now, it's up to you as the individual speaker if you want to do the event or not, okay? My school of thought is I'm not paying nobody to speak on their stage unless it makes so much sense financially. I would have to know that I am going to get the biggest return on my financial investment possible. If I'm paying $1,000 to speak on Oprah's stage, you better believe that at the end of that event, I need to walk away and at least 10x, walk away with at least $10,000 in sales from books, sales from coaching programs, sales from whatever it is that I was offering that group of people. But that's just me, right? You have to know how to pitch well for those events, right? Because typically you're speaking on stage and then you're pitching a product or a service to the audience in hopes that the audience is going to purchase, come to your table, your vendor table or whatever, or come up to you afterwards and purchase whatever so you can get money on what we call the back end, right? You're not getting paid up front, you're getting paid on the back end from the event attendees. If none of that makes sense to you, you're not good at pitching, your target audience is not going to be in the room. Like if there was a room full of couples, a million couples, right, at this event, if we're keeping with the Oprah analogy, and I was still doing couples therapy and I needed clients, I might pay to speak at this event because it makes sense, right? But if it's a room full of dog lovers and that ain't got nothing to do with me, like why would I waste my money to do that, you know? So it's up to you. There's people who do that, people who live by that model, people who see that it's worth it, and that's just what they do. But for me and my speaking journey, that's not my ministry. But no shade to anybody else who wants to do that or who has done that or who will do that in the future. I think you had another comment, Giovanna. How do we suss them out up front before doing all the extra? What do you mean by doing all the extra? Typically, if somebody is reaching out to you, that information should be up front. If you're on somebody's website, that information should be up front. If I got to email you 20 times to get that information, I'm already annoyed. Like that information should be front and center. If they're hiding it or you don't find out until later, that doesn't sit right in my spirit. And if you janky about money on that end, you might be janky about the whole event in itself. So this is why I don't fool with those type of events, to be honest with you. How do you suss them out up front before doing all the extra? Kevin Walsh, we got people on here that's just ridiculous. How do you extra being carving out time, getting dolled up, etc.? For any event, are you specifically talking now about pay to play model? If I'm getting dolled up doing hair, makeup, if I'm traveling, if I'm carving out time for my presentation, if I'm doing any of those things, you better believe that it's worth my time. So that means I'm getting paid good money. Or I know there's going to be a return on my investment, meaning there's going to be somebody there who can go help me go to the next level that I'm meant to connect with, that, I'm going to get good book sales with, all of the things. This is just an example because I was talking to my manager about this yesterday. I spoke at an event in 2019 in LA, and it was a relationship event with a few relationship experts, and there was 1,000 people in the room. And I was on a panel. I didn't get paid to be on this panel, but there's 1,000 people in the room. At the end of that night, I sold almost $4,000 in books alone. Wasn't no coaching program, wasn't no high ticket. You got to pay $5 million. Only 10, 20 books, just like this, $20 books. I made almost $4K off of a free speaking engagement. Stuff like that, that's worth it to me, right? Like, period. So you have to assess. And you have to see who the person is putting on the events. If they raggedy, if they ain't got a good social media, if they don't have a good following already, how are they going to be able to fill up an event in a room? We, as speakers, we have to not be so thirsty to want events and only pick the events that's right for you. That's it. It's okay to tell people no. It's okay to be like, nah, this isn't for me. It's okay. All right. Let's get back to this list. Boom. What was the next question is, if you guys have more questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. We're chatting. There's no pressure today. This is just like a live Ask Me Anything Q&A. Get your coins worth. Normally, we're sending out invoices for this information. This is golden, okay? So share this. Make sure you tell some friends to log on, get their questions answered, because I honestly don't know if I'm going to do this again. My assistant asked me this morning. She was like, are you going to keep doing this? And I'm like, I don't know yet. I don't know. I might do another one. I might make this like a once a month thing, or I might not ever do it again. I don't know. So take full advantage right now. Jenny says, first time author here. Should you self-publish? Should you obtain a grant for startup funding or invest in a startup workshop? Good question. So this is a multi-layered question too. As a first-time author, where's my book? I wrote this small pocket-sized book as my first book. This was my first baby back in 2017. It's a small pocket-sized book about mental health. And I self-published. I self-published because I wanted all my money. Let's be real. Like, when you're an author, all of your coins matter, right? I wanted all my money. I wanted to know where my money was going, how it was coming in. I didn't want nobody to take a percentage or revenue, like none of that. So I self-published, and I've also self-published that book back here, Hard Work or Harmony. I essentially have 5 books, and I've self-published all of them. Now, because of where I am going and because of where God is leading me to, I will probably go through a traditional publishing company. The next book that I write, which is a different story for a whole different day, because I don't even know about how that really works, like getting a full book deal. But clearly I'm gonna have to do my research and tap into my people and figure that out on my own. So if you are going to be if you are a first-time author, I would probably just go with self-publishing. I'm not even gonna lie. It's easier. You can get it done quickly. You don't have to split revenue with anybody. I mean, if you put it on Amazon and stuff like that, they'll take a percentage, of course, but you get to keep most of your revenue. And so the hardest part about self-publishing is that you have to do all of the things yourself, essentially. And when I say yourself, I mean like the marketing behind your book, that's going to be all you. You the one got to tell people about your marketing. You the one that got to post on social media. You the one that got to, go to events and be selling. You have to do all of that on your own because you don't have a publishing company behind you to support you in that aspect, in the sense. So I would self-publish, to be honest with you, but you can outsource some of the things. Like, I actually have a course, and I didn't even plan to talk about this. I have a course called How I Wrote 2 Books in 30 Days. It's $99. I can put the link in here. You can email me afterwards, whatever, where I walk you through the whole entire process of how I wrote my books from start to finish. And that might be something that you want to tap into, because at least you'll have a blueprint of you trying, and you won't have to do it yourself. I had to learn all of this on my own. And that was the hardest part. I was like, what? I got to do who, what, when? Like, it was just a lot. And so if I had a course that's why I wrote the course and did the course, because I wanted to help other people who were going through that journey, like, cut down on their learning curve. So I'll definitely put the link in the comment section, or I'll put it in the description after this video ends. And then that way you guys can have it in there. If not, please feel free to email me, info@KiaundraJackson.com, and then I'll have my assistant send it over to y'all. That's probably the best way. Parents the Therapist is in the house, in the building, info@KiaundraJackson.com. You can email there and I'll have my assistant shoot you the link. But any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. Okay, we're moving on to the next part. The next question. What is the most rewarding thing you experience in entrepreneurship? This is a good one. I would say two. Ooh, is that in entrepreneurship? I'll just tell y'all the 2 things that were the most rewarding for me up until this point. The first thing was me graduating from graduate school. So I have my master's in clinical psychology with an emphasis in marriage and family therapy. All of the work and everything that I went through in graduate school, baby, we're here, okay? If you guys don't know the story, the first month of me being, I think it was actually the first 2 weeks, but the first few weeks of me being in graduate school, my professor told me that I wouldn't be a good therapist. So I almost dropped out. It's a long story. All of the things happened. But sticking it out and going through the whole 3-year program and finishing strong and doing all of those things, and looking back on graduation day of all the assignments and all of the tests that I had to take and everything that I did through that program while working full time, I was like, cool. Pat on the back, Kiaundra, because you did that, sis. You did that. So that was the most rewarding. And I would say The second thing that was the most rewarding is being recognized by Beyonce and the NAACP. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't even know Beyonce knew my name. Okay, your girl was on the Beyonce website and everything. Okay, I was like, oh my God, this is lit. And not necessarily because it's Beyonce, but it just reminded me of you never know who's watching you. That's why I tell people, do what God told you to do, period. You never know who's watching you, who's watching your work, who's watching how you show up, who's watching the things that you do, and so you have to be wise about what you put out into the world. That was probably the biggest accomplishment, or the most rewarding. And it came with a 5-figure check, y'all. 10K. Beyonce put her money where her mouth is. It came with a 10K check. Right. So literally you can go on my Instagram. I'm holding the check crying like, just because it was so beautiful, and the letter that they wrote and said like out of, I think 18,000, businesses and people that they looked at, I was chosen as one of those people. Woo, it still like takes my breath away, to think about that. So that is definitely the most rewarding. Is there a question? Yvonne says, I'm at the very, very starting phase of a coaching endeavor, parenting coach. Can't quite call it a business yet, but that's what I want. I'm currently in grad school, though. I graduated in May. Hey, gang, gang. My question is, what steps should I take to start building my business while in school? I would not take any steps while you're in school. That's just my full-blown honest to God opinion. Starting a business and maintaining a business, Giovanna, is hard work. That's a full-time job within itself. So I would say wait till you graduate, to be honest with you, and then start this process. Because trying to graduate, take your finishing comps or whatever it is that y'all, I don't know the full MSW program because I'm an AMFT, but like it's going to be a lot on you. So I would just pull back on that, to be honest with you. Know what you want to do, know the vision, know where you're going and all of those, but don't burn yourself out in this season, right? Like the name of the game is to graduate, sis. That's what you need to focus on. Focus on graduating first. If you want to get licensed, focus on that, but in the process of that, then that's when you can start the business. Trying to start a business in graduate school, I wouldn't suggest that. And that's just me knowing the mental foolery that tends to happen as a business owner. It's a lot to deal with on top of life already happening. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure if you have kids or if you're partnered or, you have other things going on in life. Like it can be a lot. So I'm not saying to don't do it ever. I'm just saying, trust your gut. Pause on that, sis. And let your main and your next focus strictly just be graduating. Because that's enough. That's enough right now. Woo, she said, that's what my gut is telling me to do. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Jenny said, get that yes. Get the license, graduate, let that be the focus. And then you can circle back to that after all of that is done. Next question. If y'all got more, drop them in the comments, but I'm going to pull from this list right here. Oh, how did you get the courage to start speaking is the next question. So full disclosure, I never wanted any of this. People don't know, but I never wanted to be on TV, never wanted to be an author, never wanted to do none of the things. All I wanted to do, and my business partner will tell you, I told her when I first met her years ago, I was like, I just want to make a little bit of extra money so I can have a cushion. That was my goal. And do therapy. That's it. Wasn't trying to do none of the things and still be like, wait, what? What is my life? So I feel like the life that I have now chose me. So speaking, it wasn't something I'm like, oh, I want to be a public speaker. I want to talk about mental health or relationships. Like, didn't want to do that either. I just started talking about it because that's what I love and that's what's on the inside of me and that's what I'm passionate about. I just started talking about it on IG. Like, oh yeah, talking about relationship, blah, blah, blah. And people would see my post, and then they invited me on their podcast, and they invited me on, to speak in person. And then, that led to local and national television. And then that led to me being featured in articles. And then the ball just kept rolling. So I feel like this lifestyle chose me. I didn't necessarily choose it. But one thing that I know for sure is that God has been confirming along the way and on this journey. And when God told me to do something, I move. If you don't hear nothing else that I say, when God tells you to be obedient to what God tells you to do. Every time. God told me to quit my job 2017, quit. Done. God told me to stop seeing clients. It's been a year and 9 months. Quit. Done. Right? And he's been providing and sustaining. So when God tells you to do something, move. The question is, how did I get the courage to start speaking? I genuinely am myself. When I speak on stages, on TV, in corporate events, I am this way, So it's not like I have to shift and change my personality or my perspective. Like, I feel like I'm just sharing what I already know. And I just think that a lot of people are so fearful of talking in front of crowds or talking in front of people because they don't have their own self-confidence down. They're so worried about what other people think. That's the real deal. I don't want to get up in front of this crowd or speak to 10, 20, or 100 or 1,000 people because what if they look at me? What if they say I'm ugly? What if they think I don't know what I'm talking about? What if all of these what ifs keeps happening? And guess what? Those what ifs might be, valid, but that's what we call imposter syndrome, especially if you're an expert and you went to school for this. And you have your personal experience to back it up and professional experience. Like, what are we questioning here, right? Like, too many people are on mute and not speaking what God tells them to speak, which is a problem. Because if you don't do what God tells you to do, that means you're not helping the people that you're supposed to help, which means people are just going through life not getting what they need to get, and only you can provide it to them. How would it be if the people that I did work with when I was seeing clients, if I was like, no, I'm not going to do this therapy thing, and then all of these couples got divorced because of me, or all of the people that I've worked with died by suicide because of me, or all of these, what? Right? That's on me because I wasn't obedient. So do what you're supposed to do. If you want to speak and your voice is shaking when you speak, your legs are trembling, and you are scared as I don't know what, do it scared. Do it shaking. Do it uncertain. Do it nervous. Just do it. It's like Nike in here, right? Like, just do it, sis. Just do it, bro. Period. Giovanna says, I want everything. I want to speak right. And absolutely. 1,000%. My thing is, like, I want to die empty. I want to do everything God had for me. You're not about to get me up in heaven and God going to be like, oh, well, I had all this money for you and this projects and these businesses and this land, but you was too scared to do it. What? I want him to be like, yo, Kiaundra, you did that thing called life. Okay, welcome. I want him to be like, yes, job well done, And so do all the things. Just make sure it's in alignment and the divine timing that it's supposed to be in. Because God puts a lot of things in my heart. And this wasn't even meant to be a spiritual conversation, but here we are. God puts a lot of things in my heart and in my spirit and, in my soul that I want to do, but it isn't the timing, right? It isn't the proper timing. It might be what he's telling me now might be for a year from now or 5 years from now, right? And so understanding what you're supposed to do and the timing that you have to do it in is so crucial. Next question. Oh, that was Giovanna's question. We already answered that. Bing bong. Oh, this one's getting a little personal, but here we are. How do you manage your relationship status when you work with married couples? So I essentially think this person is saying, like, because you're currently single, like, what gives you the right to work with married people? Essentially, that's what they're saying. That's what I'm getting out of this. And you're right. I am currently single, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I realized a long time ago that my relationship status has nothing to do with the God-given purpose that I have. when you're able to separate yourself, your relationship status from your purpose and the things that God has told you to do, you will go so much further. Not to mention, I think we live in this society and this stage where we feel like someone has to have that very exact same thing in order for them to be able to help me. But that isn't always necessarily true, right? Like, how many times have you gone to your medical doctor and was like, yo, if you don't have breast cancer, you can't treat my breast cancer. If you don't have high blood pressure, you can't treat me. If you don't have diabetes and you're not taking insulin, doc, you can't treat my diabetes. Like, we don't have that perspective, right? When it comes to that stuff. So for some reason, people think that in regards to the medical field or the helping field that we in, that you have to be that exact thing. There are some therapists that are single who works with married couples. There are some therapists who are divorced working with married couples, right? Like, all of those things are happening. And so people have to separate themselves from those things. And to be honest with you, like, once you separate those two things, like, you're able to go so much further. And to be honest, like, I know God gave me a gift. I don't even understand how I've been able to help so many couples stay together. Honestly, I'm just like, whoa, I'm good at this, right? Like, not only is it my professional knowledge that I've learned in school, but people don't understand that it's not just book knowledge, right? It moves from book knowledge. This is good. I need to like re-record this. This is like, it moves from book knowledge to applied knowledge, right? So taking the information that you learned in school, working with couples, textbook type stuff, all them books that's on my shelf over here, and you actually apply those things to real life couples, right? And you've been doing it for so long to the point you know couples in and out, up and down and all around. And you can look at a couple and be like, okay, boom, 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 this is what you need to do. And if they put in the work, they'll see the results. That's a God-given gift, right? So why would we downplay somebody who's single in this season, right? Just because of that. It's like the numbers don't lie. Like, that's all I can say about that, to be honest with you. So if you ever see anybody who doesn't have the thing, but they're effective in it, there's nothing wrong with that. I have a friend who owns a very thriving daycare. She don't have not one child. Like, and she's so good with kids, right? Like, so good with them, but she ain't got not one kid in her from her, like, what? Right? But she's good at it. So we have to have that same perspective in regards to other things. And I always come from the school of thought too. Like, if you don't want to work with me because I'm single, then I'm not for you. There's tons of other therapists out there who are married, who are helping couples. They may or may not be as effective as me, but you get to choose who you want to work with. And so do I. Okay. So I don't think that person was trying to come for me, but I love to kind of like give that context and really explain what that looks like, because some people don't understand that concept a lot of the times. And so, yeah, that's just the way it is. I think I have one more question on my little list here, but if you have any questions about anything, love, life, relationships, mental health, public speaking, therapy, business, entrepreneurship, now is your time. Now is your time. What is next for you on this journey? Oh my gosh. Y'all trying to be all in my business, okay? So I can't really talk about it in its entirety, but what I do desire to do next is I have been working on my own television show for a very long time. And so, God willing, and it being in divine timing, I will have my own TV show. And that is as much as I can say about that part. So be on the lookout for this face, okay, on national television. Remember your girl, because, you know, when she gets her own show, it's going to be up and stuck from there. But that is the next journey for me, or that's what I would like to see as the next level. At this point, I'm already full-fledged media personality. I'm no longer seeing clients for therapy, so God has shifted me in a different direction. But I'm still providing the same value, but just to more people and on a massive scale. Terrence says you really just you really just know how to do the work, not the experience. That's real talk. Absolutely. Giovanna says you put in the sweat equity, aka graduate degree, and that part. Okay. And that's another thing. I didn't even pass my licensure exam on the first try. That's a test. That's a testament. That's another conversation for a whole nother day. Okay. I did not pass by 2 points. I was so devastated. I just wanted to die. I was like, I spent all of this time studying and I didn't pass by 2 points. Like, what is going on? But that was also God was showing me like that was the first time that I ever really like failed at something. And so he had to like help me go through that process of what failure would look like. So when I get more no's and disappointments, I know how to handle it effectively. Giovanna says, thank you so much. On to the next assignment. Grateful. Let's go. Congratulations on the TV show. Y'all better speak life into it. It hasn't happened yet, but it's definitely in the works. So that was the last question that I have from my list. I am going to open it up one more time for everybody that is on here live. If you have any questions, now is the time to get your question answered live and in color. I mean, I'm here. I want to make sure everyone's questions get answered. Thank you for, while y'all are putting y'all last questions in the chat box, thank you for joining me, right? Like you guys could have been anywhere. It's late on some of y'all East Coast people. And I appreciate you guys being on here, taking time out of your busy schedule, getting your questions answered. Like it means a lot to me that you guys continue to show up, you know, like it means a lot. So I'm going to take one last look in this chat box. If I don't see anything, then we are going to head out, but this is the last call. You know, like when you at the club and it's like last call for alcohol, last call for questions. That is too funny. Well, I don't see anything in the chat box. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. But this has been a good time. This has been my first AMA since 2017. So the fact that I was on here answering you guys questions for over an hour, it felt good. Like it felt good. I love the questions that you guys had and continue to have. If you are watching the replay, I may or may not do this again. Stay connected. If you are looking for those resources that I have for my courses and things of that nature, feel free to email info@kiaundrajackson.com, and I'll try to put that link and that information inside the description of this video as well. And I am going to timestamp everything because this is a little bit longer. And for people who have specific questions, I want to come back to it. You guys will know exactly where the markers are. So thank you so much for your time. You guys have a wonderful and blessed night. And I will see y'all at the next one. Bye.